Hello everybody. In this screencast we're gonna look a little bit in detail on how to read data from Firestore and then transform it into Swift objects that we can use inside our Swift code. So basically we are looking at how to encode and decode this data, how to encode the data from Firestore and dump it into our Swift code, how to do that. Alright, so before we do this, I'd like to look at the documentation a little bit. So if you look at how we are not interested, we are interested in getting a document. This is how we get a document, and we talked about that in a little bit. Now, you should notice that we need to create a collection that we can use. So if you look here, I created a collection already. It's called Notes. And Notes has these, the time it was created, who created it, the ID of who created it. And let me show you how I'm doing this. So let me delete this. And what I did is I created in the project that we are using, the running example that we're using, I created a store sample data, and basically I have a list of greetings, just a sample, just some greetings that I'm going to put. DB, which is Firestore. I get a document reference, which is db.collection. I call it notes, and document to create a random reference or for a document. And then here what I'm doing is I'm getting from greetings, I'm just getting a random element. It's called a random greeting. And I create my map or a dictionary, which is key value pair, the key document ID. I get it from document reference, you get the document ID. Message, just is the random greeting. Created at, I use the server time. And then created by, what's the user ID of whoever created it. So there is a logged in user right now. And basically auth.get current user or current user, and then UID gives you the current user ID. Perfect. And then we have the dictionary, and then we just say set data to this, and we're good to go. So if you look here, it's empty, but if we, let's say I click on store sample data, and I go in and I refresh the screen, go back in again, it created some notes. Now we click on store again, and another one should be created. Let's create, let's say 4 of them. Okay. And you see they are just randomly generated. How are you? And namaste. And hey, what's up? So basically you see here it's creating the notes randomly. And basically you see here this is the user ID. And it's 9D at the beginning. So if you look at authentication, I only have one user in the system, which is 9D again. So here I did create the user, and that's not what we're really focused on. What I would like to do is to read the data. So basically, in order to read this data, I need the Firestore database, a reference to the database. Here it is. This is how you get a reference to the database. And then I need db.collection is, I need a reference, which is notes. So I want to read everything under notes. So in order to do that, I just say get documents with completion handler. And I press enter again, snapshot, and let's say error. Okay. And then basically here we have it here. We just check to see if snapshot is not equal to nil, and snapshot is not empty. So there is empty. So I'm just gonna say is not empty. Here we are. And I think we are good in that case. We have a snapshot. Now we can go in and get the documents. So I can loop over the documents. So for each document in snapshot dot get snapshot dot okay, so this one we just need to unwrap it. Here it is, snapshot dot documents. Here it is. Here's that. So we have the documents, here's that, and then we can just get the data. So basically what I could do is, I know that I can get the data. So we did this before. Let's say print doc.data. This is the actual data that's in the document. So if we run this, and if we run it, let me make this a little bit smaller like this so that I don't have to go back and forth. All right, so now when I click on read data, it's bringing in the data, created at, and this is the next document. This is bringing in these documents. Cool. So now let me create a class that I'm going to store stuff in. So I'll create a new file, call it the note class. Here it is. And basically a note has this stuff. I'm going to copy this from here. So I'll do class note. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and create some variables that will hold this data. Here we are, and here we are. So basically I need a variable, let's say doc ID of type string question mark, variable message of type string question mark, and optional, and it can be nil, and variable created by UID, and it is string question mark. And then variable, you see here it's called fair timestamp. That's the type. It's created at, here is that, created at of type fair stamp question mark. All right, so now we have matched whatever is coming in from Firebase, and it's not happy. Okay, so I can build it and see why it's not happy. So it cannot have fire stamp in scope. We need to import Firebase. Go here, import, because I need the Firebase one. So I'll do import Firebase, and now we'll wait and see if it will build. We build it again, and it has said that it's been renamed to timestamp. Okay, good. So now we go back and make it timestamp. Here we are. Okay, good. So we have a notes object, and now what I would like to do is I will send that note object a document snapshot. So basically I'm going to go here and create an init, create an initializer, and it will receive a snapshot of document snapshot. Cool, there it is. And then once it receives the document snapshot, we need to do stuff. So basically what I'm going to do is I will receive the document snapshot, and then I want to get the data from it. So let data equal snapshot dot data. Right? That's the data. You could check to see if let data equal to this, something like that. So now this one will take care of the unwrapping and so on. So now if we have the data, then what do? We can come in here, and once we have the data, then we can do this. We could say self.docid equal to data of, and then it's called document ID. It's a dictionary. It gives you a dictionary as question mark string. So now we have the document ID. Perfect. So we copy this document ID. We have the message. Same thing. So here's the message. And here's the created by user ID. There's that. Cool. So now we need to get the other one, which is the created at. Also very straightforward. We do this, and this is created at. Here it is created at as timestamp. Right, we're good to go. So now that parses. You just give me a document snapshot. I will just be able to parse it for you. So now in order to do that here, I have the document parse snapshot here, which is the doc, right? So I'll do it, say let note to equal to note of doc. All right, there it is, and we're good. So basically that creates the note, and what I will do is I'll put a breakpoint here and run the code, and I want to show you that I have the note. Okay, so here we are. I click on read data, and the breakpoint is here. This is the note, and you see here I have the document ID, I have the message, I have the created at, and I have the created by UID. Perfect. So usually when you do this, you want to have an array. So let's say usually you have to have an array to hold these notes in it. So I'll go here. I'll say var notes equal to note of this, and then whenever we call this function, I'm going to say notes dot clear or remove all, and then move ahead. Okay, and I'll put a breakpoint, let's say after the if statement, so that we can capture all the notes. All right, so now let's say we go here, and then we do notes self.notes, sorry, notes dot append note. So now I'm gonna just add the notes here that are coming into this notes array, and then I can display it as a table view or whatever I want to use to display it. So click on read data. Here we are. Here is self. Here is the notes. It's 4 notes, and here we are. I was able to parse the 4 notes. So that's one way of doing things, is just you go in and you just create an initializer here where you're gonna send the document snapshot, and you read the data and go from there. The other option that we could use is something called Codable interface. So if you look at the documentation, if we go back to the documentation and source option, custom object series. So, and it says that previously don't write to contents of this, and now we want the Codable interface. So it does say that to support the automatic type serialization in Swift, meaning that it will automatically take whatever object that's coming in the dictionary and map it into a class. In order to do that, the class has to obey something called the Codable protocol. So let's see how do we do that. I clicked here, and then I will click here again just to get an idea of from Apple. Make it a little bit bigger so you could see it. So sending and over data, the Codable interface. So basically, a Codable interface, if you just declare it's Codable, then if the dictionary that is received has a variable called name, it will take that variable, whatever for example here, if you look at the notes, we have a variable called, we have whatever is coming in the dictionary. See here, this is the dictionary. It has a key called created at, and what it's going to do, and the class itself has a parameter or a variable called created at. So what it's going to do, it's going to map this to this and going to cast it by the type that is defined in the class. Similarly, message is a string. It will take message and cast it here. So they have to map one to one. So in order to do that, you just go here and say Codable, and you're good. Because the naming scheme is the same, it is going to work. But it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of doing it this way, I'll take this from here. I'll paste it. I'll put a comment on it just so that you can use it as a reference later. All right, so everything is the same, but we are not going to do the constructor. We're not going to use the constructor. Instead, we will do this. Let note to equal to, and then the document dot as, and you give it a decoder, which is the note dot self. And basically, you say try question mark because it can break. So we'll do that, and we can do if here. And we go from here, and then if everything goes well, I'm going to store the note in here. So basically what we are doing here is we are telling it the document, which is the whatever contains the dictionary, is to transform it using this class, which is Codable, meaning that there's a one-to-one mapping between whatever the data that's coming in and whatever the data gets stored in Swift. So we go here, and I'm going to put a breakpoint here so that you could have a look at let's say we don't do it here. We do it. We put the breakpoint after the for loop so that we can capture the list. I'll put it right after the for loop somewhere here. Okay. So it will for, and then after the if statement is done. All right. We run it here, and it's straightforward because we have a one-to-one mapping, right? So we are here. It stops here. And here is the notes class and dictionary or the notes array, and it has all the data. Perfect. You can get more and more sophisticated. So what if we change one of the variable names? Let's say instead of document ID, I do it like this: doc ID here equal to string, something like that. And this one is the constructor that we used in the past. But now let's run it and see. So basically, I just slightly changed document ID instead of it being doc capital I lowercase d, I make it doc capital I and capital D. It doesn't match what the dictionary is going to come up with from Firebase. So if we run this, let's see what happens. So when we run it, and I click on read data, and remember we had the breakpoint after the stuff is happening, and you can see here doc ID is nil. Why doc ID is nil? Because the name doesn't match, right? But you can provide custom ways of doing the Codable, and that would require just reading the Codable documentation. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can encode and decode exclusively, and if you scroll down a little bit, you can have a coding table. So basically you can have coding keys, meaning you can specify some coding keys. These are the mappings. You say, for example, name, the variable name is title, right? It's going to be coming in as title. So let me copy this from here and specify the coding keys. Here's that. And then basically here, coding keys is string name. Let's say doc ID. Let's say we change things a little bit. We'll say document ID. Okay. So basically I will say document ID is doc ID. All right. and let's say, and of course this one is here, okay. And then similarly, could call this the notes message, note message. Or for example, we could say, for example, text of the note, right? And basically here, this is text. We'll say text is message, right? That's the whatever is coming in the dictionary, all right? So here we are. And you just define this enumerator to provide the cases, your cases. Here's that. Let's say, for example, we can call this UID, right? And we could come back here and say create another case. We could say, for example, if you see created by UID, and that is this. And then similarly, we don't need to provide one for created at. And now let me fix this here. All right, we are not using this this initializer at all. So let's see if we do this, what happens. So I'll run the code again. Okay. And I'll click the button. Here it is. I click the button. And then what I'm getting back is the array. And you can see here, it says it is parsing document ID, text, UID, and created at is nil. So basically we have to declare created at in here also. So if we go here and we say created at is created at, we can do something like this. Created at is created at. And we run this again. And then these are the coding keys. The coding keys need to include everything you want to code. So this also allows you to pick and choose what do you want to code, right? So here it is. And you see here created at is being coded. Perfect. So you see now how you could use Codable interface, or how you could use just the simple way of just using the snapshot listener and doing that. But you see the code is not that. Yes, of course the code is different. Here it's one line. Here it looks like one line. However, it's not one line because you have to go in and you have to provide the initializer. All right, so that gives you an idea of how to do the coding, how to encode, to go from Firebase data coming in to Swift class. All right, please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.